There are two reasons for not having executions today. The first reason is that people who get murdered are often guilty or responsible for what happens to them in some way too. They're not blameless. And the second reason is people who want to execute people aren't righteous enough, because Jesus said, "He who is without sin, let him cast the first stone," when there was a woman caught in adultery and they wanted to stone her. So because people in the world today are not righteous, that forfeits their right to impose heavy sentences on people. And the other reason that I've said is that people who get attacked or get mistreated or get killed, murdered, or get attacked, often are responsible for it in some slight way too. They're not blameless. Now, having said that, the Bible is trying to teach you that when Cain murdered Abel, it was God's intention that Cain should have been executed by his brothers and sisters for killing Abel, because Abel was blameless and the people around Cain were not full of sin. And Jesus said, "He who is without sin can cast the first stone." And until people become more righteous and don't do anything wrong and are holy and loving and caring, that forfeits the right for them to impose heavy sentences like executions. And also, when they talk about all the time on the television about women and girls being abused, I've often seen it that single women are often not very nice towards other people. They sit on their own. They look like they're waiting just to point the finger at someone for not making them feel special, even just for not making them feel special, or for not meeting the right husband, or for seeing a man that they think that person doesn't do anything for me. So they're not always victims, and they can't always call the men misogynists. But what I'm trying to say is that people who get mistreated or attacked or murdered are often partly responsible for it because of their own participation in sinning or in a bad attitude or in judging people or in provoking people to mistreat them. And it's quite clear from the teachings of the Bible that the Bible is teaching that Cain, who murdered Abel, should have been executed, because the law of Moses said that you shall not commit murder. And if you do shed someone's blood willfully, you would have to have your blood shed as a punishment. And the Bible is full of comparing sins. So it's quite clear from reading the Bible that sins have a spectrum of severity. Not all sins are equal. Some sins are much more serious than others. And I've heard Baptists say that all sins are just sin. It's rebellion against God. But look at what happened in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve got expelled from the Garden of Eden for disobeying God. Eve questioned God and disagreed with him and told Adam, and Adam went along with it. And so there was no more Garden of Eden for Adam and Eve. They had to live outside, where they had to till the earth, and it yielded thorns and thistles and weeds. But that was a slight punishment. But when Cain killed Abel, Abel was blameless, and it said that Abel's offerings were acceptable to the Lord and Cain's weren't. And so it's quite obvious that the mark Cain received for doing that so that nobody would kill him when he was trying to reason with God, when he was a murderer of a blameless, his blameless family brother, member of his family, who was blameless and was acceptable to the Lord. The Bible is being facetious about Cain's mark. And Cain's great grandson Lamech killed a man, but it wasn't murder if you read it carefully. And he was judged 77 times and Cain 7 times. And that is proving the Bible is facetious, because the Bible is not stupid. And when it says that Jesus died to compare the shedding of his sinless blood voluntarily for forgiveness, was because of it says in Hebrews 12:24 that Jesus died to shed his blood in response to Abel's blood, which was crying out for vengeance of people going along with Cain killing Abel and not caring about Abel and being responsible for it. And there was nothing done about it until Jesus shed his blood, because by believing in Jesus and being under Jesus's blood, you're set free from the responsibility of being responsible for what Cain did to Abel. Otherwise, you're responsible, because sin carried down, because people didn't punish Cain, and they covered up Abel being lost by replacing him with Seth. And they were in a predicament because they were under God's judgment. And it proves God still had judgment, because it led to the flood, where God had a flood on the whole earth where everyone died except Noah and his family. And that wasn't because there were lots of murders like Cain and Abel. It was a result of Cain killing Abel and the indifference. And what happens to people when a sin has been committed and they don't deal with it properly, and what that makes the human heart like. And I've complained on the news that they talk about sins every day, murders, rape, accidents, cancers, diseases, cremations, and they're just talking about it, and people become blasé about it and trivial about it, and they think tomorrow's Tuesday I'll hear about a murder, and on Thursday I'll hear about a train crash, and on Friday I'll hear about a rape and a theft and another murder, and then on Saturday I'll hear about someone being sent to prison for doing something wrong. And so it goes on, and people just get used to it. And that's exactly what happened after Cain killed Abel and wasn't punished for it. And the climate that led to that being a tarnishment and a blackness on people's heart, and compassion and care and love. And that's what led to the flood.